The journey isn't regulated. The journey is within our will. Because if we listen to the story of Isaiah, he said at a certain point, Lord, I don't have the words to say. But God said, wait a minute, I will put words in your mouth. Based on my call, I think it came right away from my family, being that my father was a catechist. And every morning we could wake up and go to church to ring the bell and prepare for the liturgy. And just by extension, to cut the story short, that is while I was at the university, when the celebration of the liturgy was on, Father Lance, the current Superior General, he asked me while I was serving. And by then, I had not shared with him this particular story of my vocation. But he came and asked me, Charles, would you like to become a priest? Then I told him, well, it is something that I have been thinking about. Then he told me next year, June 1st, the Superior General, that is by then Ray Finch, and Father Mike Snyder, the vocation director, they came to Kenyatta University to meet Patrick and I during that year, that is 2016. Then the process of discernment continued. It reached a moment whereby I felt, will it be really my vocation? But it even came stronger and stronger. And you'll find that some of the priests, they will not be working in the parishes. They will be working with the communities in the streets. A good example is Father Bob, who is working in Bangladesh. He's a very humble man. He doesn't work in the parish, but he's journeying with the community from that very basic level. And in our studies, we do study the mission work, how to approach the mission, how to journey and work with the people. And through that style of formation and cultural integration, you find it to be a kind of unique, because we go to the culture, we learn their way and integrate it with the liturgy. And with that, I find it to be a kind of very special. I think if I get to say about the work that I did in Bolivia, I would say that it was because of God, because I made myself vulnerable to journey with these communities from where they were. First, I was working with the street families. And street families, when we are talking about street families, it is a very dangerous space. And through a friend, that is, when I am talking about cultural integration, through a friend from Bolivia, I got to know these street families. And I started journeying with them. And some of the stories, if you hear them, you will be scared. There was a moment when I just went to work with them, and I found one of them stabbed on the side. And they were all crying and asking for help, but I didn't have money to help. I only consoled him. That is the first scenario. The second scenario was when I was working with the elderly. That means I worked with street families, elderlies, environmental conservation, after-school program, and also the parish work. And among those 5 major ministerial works, I find working with the elderly was such a transformative moment for me, because I journeyed with them during the hardest moment, that is during the COVID. And I remember while I was serving one of the elders, and I felt hungry, and I started consuming some of the food. Then one of the sisters told me, Charles, why are you taking that? You are going to die. Then I told her, you know what? If it is written that we are going to die because of COVID, we are going to die. Then the following day, she took me out of the infirmary and went to the dining to serve the elderly. Then, when the case of COVID broke out in the entire property, 96% were infected, and only 4 survived, were not infected. And I was among those 4. And that was just a mystery.
Deacon Matthew from MaryKnoll. I'm a transitional deacon with MaryKnoll. I'm currently transitioning from El Paso, Texas, where I was doing some migrant ministry and some parish work with Father Ray Finch. and I'm moving back to Chicago to finish up my theological studies. And hopefully, with your prayers, I will be able to finish up my studies and get ready to start my missionary priesthood. This is my 8th year in my formation. I had 3 years of philosophy, I did a year of spirituality, and together with Father Charles and Joshua and Deacon Patrick, I was working in Bolivia, Cochabamba, serving in the rural areas. Very fortunate to know MaryKnoll in Hong Kong. And when I met them, I found that they were a community that really are interested in what the people need rather than what they want to provide for the people. The MaryKnoll charism begins with knowing the people, and then together with them developing strategies or projects that the people can eventually take over. Some missionary groups are focused on what they can offer, but MaryKnoll is focused on what the people need. And I think that is a more meaningful mission for me, and I've been inspired by many MaryKnoll missionaries who have served in Africa, Asia, and even Latin America.